In this video, we will talk in detail about SharePoint Object Model. Now, as a developer, you'd always like to get access to SharePoint entries like list, content types, collections, site collections, etc. Right? Why? Because as a developer, you would like to go and manipulate those objects, you would like to program against those objects, and you would like to create customization. For example, probably you would get a requirement saying that okay, go ahead and create a simple web part screen which will actually go and manipulate a SharePoint list. So what in sense what for a developer it means is that there should be something given by SharePoint by which I can go and access the list object, or I can go and access those SharePoint objects. And that's where exactly what we have, the SharePoint Object Model. SharePoint Object Model is nothing but it's basically, you can think about it's a API via which you can go and manipulate or read the SharePoint objects. So what we'll do in this example is we'll first try to fundamentally understand how exactly the SharePoint Object Model is structured, and then we'll write a simple program to display the complete SharePoint Object Model. Now the SharePoint Object Model is very easy to remember, or I'll say it's very easy to understand. Why? Because the SharePoint Object Model actually replicates the way your SharePoint is physically deployed, the way your SharePoint actually physically works. So in other words, you can visually see the SharePoint Object Model. Okay. Now let's start with the highest denominator. Let's say that you are using SharePoint to cater huge numbers of users. Let's say that it's a very big site. So one SharePoint server will not work, right? Probably you need a web farm, where you will have n numbers of SharePoint servers. So at the top of the hierarchy, or I'll say at the top of the SharePoint Object Model, we have something called as SP farm. SP farm is nothing but this object actually represents how many it represents a collections of servers which belongs to that farm, right? And inside this SP farm, or inside this farm, you will have lot of SharePoint servers. So this can be server A, this can be server B, server C, right? Now these servers are represented by SP server object. Now as we have already said previously that everything about SharePoint, all the data what is related to SharePoint gets stored into SQL Server. So each of these servers will have database also attached to it, right? Now you can get access to the SQL servers or the SQL Server instance which is attached to each of these servers by referencing the SP database service instance object. And this SP database service instance object, actually inside it has lot of SP database object, and each of these objects actually represent databases related to SharePoint. So a single server will have one SP database service instance object, and inside that you can have multiple databases which is represented by the SP database. Now remember that why there are a lot of SP database instance inside the SP database service instance, because SharePoint doesn't have only one database. You can have WSS underscore content, you can have WSS underscore config, and etc. So you can have more than one database corresponding to one site, right? So at the top we have SP farm, inside that we have SP server which actually represents a single server, and inside that we have SP database service instance via which we can get access to any of the SQL Server databases of SharePoint by accessing the SP database object. So SP farm, SP server, inside that SP database service instance, and then we have a lot of SP database object inside the SP database service instance object. Now the servers which are actually residing inside the farm, right, can have a lot of services running. Services like the IIS application, the IIS service, or must be some other kind of batch service which is related to SharePoint, right? So each of these services are represented by the SP service object, right? So we have SP farm, Inside SP farm we have SP servers, and inside SP servers we have databases, right? And then we have the servers inside the farm, which can have a lot of services running, like the IIS application, or must be any other kind of a Windows service. Now, because as a developer, you would be customizing from the ASP.NET aspect, or as a developer, you would be actually be hosting web parts, right? So you would be more concerned with the IIS service here, right? So let's not concentrate on other services, because as I said, that there are a lot of other batch services which are existing inside this SP service, but our main concern is the IIS service, because that's what we are going to customize. We are going to customize the site, and the site is actually hosted inside the IIS service. So from this path onwards, or from this hierarchy down onwards, let me not discuss on other services. We will only talk about the IIS service. Now, inside the IIS service, you have web applications. So if you see, here's the IIS service which is running on this computer Win-3L600MWLQN, and inside that you can see we have web applications or websites. These websites are represented by SP web application. So inside the IIS service, every website, when I say website, I'm saying the physical web application which you create via the SharePoint admin, are represented by SP web application. So you can have a lot of SP web application inside the SP service. Now, inside the web application you can have multiple sites. So these sites are represented by SP site. If you remember, right, in the initial part of the tutorials, we created a simple web application, and inside the web application we created two sites. One is the Quest HR site, and the other one is the accounting site. So those Quest HR site and those accounting sites are nothing but they are they can be accessed by using SP site. Now, inside SP site you can have SP web. So the SP web actually represents a page where you can have list, you can have the final data which actually will be displayed to the end user. So you can have SP web which is a single web, or you can have a SP web which actually have multiple SP webs. So depending on how you actually want to form the hierarchy. And inside the SP web you have list which actually have the data. So if you really look at the SharePoint complete object model, right, at the top we have SP farm. So we have two branches which comes out, one which actually is the database branch, which actually has what you call servers, and inside servers we have database service instances, and the other one is the services branch, where we have different services like IIS or any other Windows process. And because we are more concerned with IIS, because we are going to customize more the ASP.NET thing, so inside the IIS service, you have web applications, and inside the web applications you have site, and inside the site you have SP webs, which is the final logical unit of display to the end user. And then finally inside the SP web, you can have list, you can have controls, you can have web parts, or whatever you wish. So that's how is the complete overall object model of SharePoint. Now what we'll do is, let's create a simple web part, and using the web part, let's try to display this complete hierarchy of a simple site. Let's see how it looks like. So what we'll do is, we'll take the same Quest HR site, and in this Quest HR site we'll actually try to host a web part here, and this web part will actually display the complete what you call the SharePoint object model for this site. Okay, so let's go to a Visual Studio here, and let's go and click on SharePoint 2010, and let's create a visual web part. Okay, so what I'll give a nice name to this, saying display SharePoint object model. So let's say okay. So next thing it's asking me is basically specify the site for which this web part will be used for debugging. So for now what I'll do is, I'm going to specify the Quest HR site here, and let me say finish. So what it will do is, it will create the necessary projects. We have already seen this demo of web part in the previous part of the video. So in case if you are new to this SharePoint visual web part, probably you can go and see the back videos where I've actually explained how to use the SharePoint visual web part. So there's our web part project created. Now
Oh, I'm sorry, I hit on the Server Explorer. Now let's go to a Solution Explorer here, and we can see that there is the Visual Web Part 1.cs, and then there's also our ASCX file, which is useful for the display purpose. So because we want to do the display, so let's go to the ASCX file.cs. So ASCX.cs file here. Now because we want to display the SharePoint object model, right, we need to actually import couple of namespaces from SharePoint. Now when we talk about SharePoint object model, it's we are trying to touch the core engine of core engine of SharePoint. So from that sense onwards, you need to actually import some very important namespaces here. So let's go and type our namespaces. So the first important namespace is Microsoft.SharePoint, and because we are touching the core engine of SharePoint, we also need to import the administration namespace, right? And over here we will display the complete object model. So we have imported these two namespaces, and in this page underscore load of the user control, we are going to go and write the code which will display the complete SharePoint object model for this site. So the first thing is we need to go and display the servers from the farm. So display servers from the farm. Okay. Now as we said that at the top hierarchy object, at the top of the hierarchy is the SP farm, and inside SP farm we have SP server. So in order to display those servers, right, we'll say for each SP server O server in SP farm dot local dot servers. Now remember that because I'm coding in my laptop currently, from this, so you can think about this laptop as a server. So I can't go and access a farm from this laptop really, so I can just access my local servers. Okay, so I'm saying okay, go and browse all the servers which are currently in this farm. So go to SP farm dot local dot servers and get the collection. Now in order to display this server name, what we'll do is let's quickly take up a list box and let's add the complete hierarchy to the list box. So let me go to my Visual Web Part 1 user control.ascx. Let's go to the design view. So let me click on design, and let me click on the toolbox, and from the toolbox I'll drag and drop a list box over here, and we'll add our complete object model to the list box. So let me click on view, toolbox. So let me take this list box from here and drag and drop onto this Visual Web part, and let's give some nice name to this list box here, saying LST LST SOM. SOM means SharePoint object model. So what we'll do is we're going to add the complete object model to this list box. Let's make this list box a bit big, because as we go down below to the service instance name, the database instance names, etc., the names are quite big. Okay, so let's go back here and let's say lst som dot items dot add. We'll say this is the server name. Okay, some dots, and we'll say o.server.name, right? So the first thing what we have done is we have actually browsed through the collection of SP farm, and we are adding the server name to a list box. Okay, so that's the first object which we are trying to browse from the hierarchy. Now the next thing is we would like to go and get hold of the database instance which is there in this O server object or the SP server object. If you remember right, the diagram which we discussed about the SharePoint object model, so we have this SP server object, and inside the SP server object we have the database instance, the database service instance, and then we have the database object. Now in order to get hold of the database service instance, you need to actually take this O server object and pass it to the SP database service instance collection class as a on the constructor. So what it will do is it will actually go and flourish this collection with all the database service collections which are present in this O server object or in this server, right? Now once you got hold of this database service instance collection, now the next thing is we need to go and browse through each of the SP database object which are present inside that collection. Now let's browse through this
through this instance collection and get our databases. So let me just say here, for each obj db service instance in spdb collection. Now the database service instance is nothing but basically it's your SQL server name, which you see normally when you connect your what you call your SQL Server Explorer. Okay, so I'm going to again go and add this instance name to my list box here. So I'm going to say lst som dot items dot add odb service instance dot display name must be name, right. Also let's this is the instance name, right? So we'll say db service instance name, right. And let me just put some dots here so that we say that okay, this belongs to the server, inside the server. So the server has 3 dots and this has 4 dots here, right. Now we also need to go now. Okay, so we got hold of the service instance collection. Inside the service instance collection, the database service instance, we are going and browsing through each of those instances. Now every instance of database service, right, can have a lot of databases, right? So let's go and browse the databases now. So in order to browse the database for each, if you remember right, we said we said that inside the service instance there is the sp database object here. So sp database object database in. So the current instance through which we are browsing is the odb service instance. So let me take that odb service instance dot databases, right. And let's again go and add these database names to the list box so that we can see the complete hierarchy. So I'm going to say here database name. Again, let me put one more dot extra so that some more dots here, so that we understand that okay, this at the top we have the servers, then we have the database service instance, and inside the database service instance we have the databases, right. So let me just go and build this. So we have completed one part of it. In other words, if you remember right, we said at the top level you have the farms, inside the farms you have the servers, and then inside the servers you have database service instances, and then inside every database service instance you will have databases. Now there was other part also where we said we have services, that is IIS service and other service. So let's go and browse those services now. So let's go and browse through services, and that also only IIS service, right. So we'll say okay, now again you can represent a complete service collection, a collection of service by using the sp service collection class. So we're going to say service collection. Sorry for the naming conventions. I understand people who are purists, they won't like my naming convention, but for now let's keep it as it is. So in order to get the service collections, right, in order to get the type of services which your farm is running, so go to spfarm.local and get hold of the services. Now we are currently for now we are just interested in the IIS service. We are not really interested in other services, like must be there are some batch processes or batch services, must be there are some other services like the BDC, etc., the data connectivity services, etc. But we are not interested in those services because from the developers aspect, we would like to get more control of SQL Server, and we would like to get more control of the IIS application, right. So only browse through IIS services. So now let's go ahead and browse through this SP service collection. So for each SP web service, SP service, I'm sorry, SP service, service, to browse through this hierarchy, right, what I do is I just
initially I explained a figure, right, where I explained a diagram where I explained that how exactly the hierarchy looks like. So once you know that, right, you get hold of the collection and then you start browsing inside it. So it's very easy. So I have not highlighted these syntaxes. What I'm doing is I'm just keeping that structure in mind, and I'm trying to figure out that if that object is present over here, right. So again, you don't need to remember all these things. Why I'm trying to explain you this through code is so that you understand that how the complete SharePoint object model looks like. Okay. So right. So what I'm doing now is I got hold of the service collections. I'm browsing through the service, but I would like to only get those services who have web applications or IIS services. I'm not interested in other services like the some kind of a batch service, or must be like the BCS service of SharePoint. I'm just interested in the IIS application. Now all the web applications, right, they belong to the SP web service object. So we need to first check that if this service object which you are browsing the collection, is it a web service or not. Okay, so I'm going to say O service, is this service object a web service, right? If it is a web service, then only I would like to go and browse inside. And what I'll do is I'll just say SP web service. I'm going to typecast this object here, so that I can get hold of a strongly typed web application property. So let me just show you SP web service O service, right. Now if you see this O web service object, right, which we have created, which is nothing but a type of SP web service, you can see clearly the web application property. So now you can actually go and browse through the web applications which are present inside IIS, right. So let me go and add the IIS applications to the list box. So I'm going to say for each SP web application or web application. So go inside the web service and get hold of web applications, and let's again add this to the list box here. So list box dot items dot add web application name or web application dot name, right. Nice. So let's just go and build this. So what we have done now is we are actually now going to the other route, that is we are trying to see what are the different kind of services, and what we have done is we have actually gone through the we have actually got the service collection from the SP farm.local services object. Then we are browsing through it, and we are also checking if this service is only a web application, then only go and add it to the list box, right. Now the next thing is, inside this web application we would like to go and browse the sites, and then inside the sites we would like to go and browse the other entities, right. Now inside this web application what you have, right, we would like to also go and browse the sites. So browse the sites inside the web application. So I'm going to say for each, now a site is represented by the SP site object, so I'm going to say SP site O site n O web application dot sites, right. Again, let's go and add this to a list box here. So I'm going to add few more dots, so that it shows a proper waterfall structure while it gets displayed on the list box. Say site name, okay. Now there is no name of the site. You can see there's a host name, so yes, I would like to take the host name for now. Control S, and let me build this application here. So we got hold of the services. We said that if the service is web application, then only go ahead, and inside the web application now we are saying that tell us which are the different type of sites, and we are actually adding those sites to the list box. So let's again go back to our diagram to understand what we have done. So we already have browsed this first path over here, where we went inside the server, we went inside the database service instance, and we browsed the databases. Now what we're doing is we have gone inside this SP service collection, we have gone inside this web application, and now we have also gone inside the sites what are there in the web application. Now we'd like to go to the web and SP web object and see the list, right? So we are already inside the site. That means that is we are over here. Now we'd like to go and see that how many kinds of what kind of web pages are there inside the site, right? So get hold of the pages, okay, or pages inside this site, or I'll say web inside the site. Okay, so I'm going to say for each SP web o web in o site dot open web. Now you can see that this open web is nothing but basically returns the web name. So open web, and just go and display this o web inside a list box first. Say list som.items dot add web o web, and the name. Now inside this o web you have list, right? So browse through the lists. So for each SP list o list in o web dot lists and get your list names. So now we are actually drilling down to the very least denominator object, that is list. Okay. So again let's go and add this to our list box. So, lists. Is there some name or list? Okay, it's not the name, it's the title. I'm sorry. Right. So it does not have a get enumerator. Okay, there's some problem here. Right. So must be okay. What it is saying is that this open web actually is not returning a collection. It's not returning it's not returning a collection which we can iterate. So fine. So what I'll do is I'm going to just make this as a statement rather than a for each loop. So I'll just go and delete this. Right. So I've got hold of the web, okay, and I'm adding the web name here, and then inside the web actually I'm going and accessing the list. Okay, very easy. So in this way, basically what I'm doing is, what I've done is basically I've iterated both the angles. That is, one is the SP server object and browse the databases, as well as I have browsed my IaaS application, and inside the IaaS applications what kind of sites I have, and inside the pages what kind of list I have. So a nice decent web part I have here. So let's go and build this to see that if there are any kind of issues here. So you can see one succeeded, and nice. So now the next thing is, let's go and deploy this web part on the Quest HR portal. So let's say right click, and I'm going to say here first let's deploy. So you can see the deploy menu over here. So let's click on deploy, and it should take some time to deploy. So there you can see it has ran the redeployment, pre-deployment. It has recycled the IaaS applications, and it has added the solution on the web, or on the Quest HR portal. Now let's go back to our Quest HR portal, and let's try to get this let's try to run this web part, and let's see that how our complete hierarchical structure is displayed on SharePoint. So now let's go to our Quest HR site and let's try to deploy that web part, or let's try to display that web part. So let me just go and quickly create a new page here, and let me give a name to this new page as display SOM, that is SharePoint Object Model. And on this page I'm going to go and insert the web part which we have just uploaded on the Quest HR site. So let's give it some time. It will. So that's my page created. Now what I'll go is I'm going to go and click on this insert menu over here, and we'll say SharePoint Object Model. Okay. So below this I'm going to go and display the what you call the list box web part which we have created. So let's click on this web part menu over here, and let's go to custom. So our web part name, we have kept it as Visual Web Part 1. So if you see here, the name is Visual Web Part 1, and we had actually uploaded on the custom folder. So we can see it's presently present in the custom folder. So I'm going to just go and add this web part on my page here. So this will take some bit time. So what should happen now is the list box should actually go and display this complete SharePoint object model which we have browsed in the page underscore load of this user control. So there's our web part displayed. So you can see that basically at the top you have the actual. Currently I don't have a farm actually, so I have only one server which is there. So you can see that he has actually first went to that default farm and took this server. Inside that, then it started taking the database service instance, right? So database service instance means if you go and open your SQL Server Management Studio, you will see that currently I have two database service instance. One is this DB service instance SharePoint, and there should be also one more DB service instance. Oh, I have only one. Okay, I'm sorry. So that DB service instance is this one. Okay, so you can see that currently I have one DB service instance here because I have only one server for now. So that DB service instance is displayed here, and inside that I have a lot of databases. So if I connect here, as I previously said, that SharePoint has its own databases like WSS_content and WSS_config, etc. So all these databases which are present inside this server name / SharePoint, all these databases are displayed on the list box. You can see here, right? And then next what we did is we actually went and we started browsing the sites. So all these sites are again present in my on my inet mgr, that is on my IIS application. So you can see that basically this is my web application called as Capgemini I have here. So if you go and browse here on the IIS, you should see that there's an application called as Capgemini. Okay, and then inside this Capgemini I have some sites which I've created. Inside the sites, then I have different kind of list. Again, I have some other site name called as My Company Projects here. So if you go here, you should see here's my Company Projects. So in this way, actually it has gone and browsed also through the IIS applications. So you can see that how easy it is to get hold of any SharePoint object by using the SharePoint object model. Now that we have understood the complete hierarchy of SharePoint, right? Now you'll ask yourself that what is the use of such a big video I've created? What I'm trying to make a point here is that I can go and access any SharePoint object by using the SharePoint object model. So for example, let's say that I want to get hold of this list, right? I can just go and get hold of this list, take this list and bind it to my custom data grid or to my grid view source. So the whole point here is that or the whole point of getting access to the object is that so that you can program it, you can call the functions and methods of those SharePoint objects. So so this was a brief introduction of how exactly is the SharePoint object model structured. Now in the coming video, what we'll do is we'll try to use this SharePoint object model and we'll try to create a simple insert, update, delete on a simple SharePoint list. So what we'll do is by using the SharePoint object model, we'll get hold of a list and then we'll create a simple insert, update, delete screen using our web parts or normal ASP.NET code, and let's see how we can actually do that operation. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and in the coming up video we'll try to understand the importance of SharePoint object model by creating a simple insert, update, delete screen on the list object.